the nation's heartland. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
So here we go again. There is a government shutdown, partial government shutdown that is currently underway. This is not going to be noticeable for most of us. It's not like the last shutdown from the fall, but it is a government shutdown. Here to explain it and tell us where this all goes from here is Missouri Congressman Mark Alford joining us on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Of course, his show, Mark Alford's Capital Recap, airs Saturdays at 1 and Sunday mornings at 8:30. Congressman, good morning. Let's just start off with who is impacted in this latest shutdown.
Well, thanks, Pete, for having me on. I'll tell you who's impacted, and this is because of the Democrats, because I want to make it very clear. We had a negotiated deal on this appropriations bill, and they reneged on it because they didn't like us deporting criminal illegal aliens in Minnesota. But here's who's impacted. FEMA not getting paid. TSA not getting paid. Coast Guard not getting paid. Cybersecurity systems for the U.S. That's very instrumental in making sure that bad actors aren't breaking into our security systems, our computers. They're not getting paid. The Democrats have once again put our nation's security at risk, and that's not hyperbolic. That is the truth because, again, Pete, they have no message, no vision, no leader. They have to create chaos in order for them to win the midterms because the one big beautiful bill is about to kick in fully. People are going to start getting the biggest refunds they've gotten in a long time. A lot of people filing their taxes today. This is all they have to run on. They're holding the American people hostage once again.
Okay, so this all started after Alex Preddy was killed, right? That's when they decided they weren't going to move ahead. Was that the thing that made them decide they're going to shut this thing down?
That's when they started talking about it after we had a deal. You know, we got all 12 bills passed out of committee. We got them off the House floor over to the Senate. The Senate was packaging them together. The last tranche was 6 bills that they were going to vote on. We voted on them, sent them over there. They packaged them to 6, and then they wanted to split off Department of Homeland Security. But here's the dirty little secret, and I think a lot of your listeners know this, but the average American probably doesn't know it because they're not listening to the proper news sources, is that under the one big beautiful bill, we fully funded Immigration and Custom Enforcement, ICE, for 4 years. Mm-hmm. So the stupid little game that the Democrats are playing is really for nothing because ICE is fully funded.
So what do they, like with every shutdown, there's something that they want. The last one, like they wanted the Obamacare subsidies to extend forever, or at least extend through this year. What do they want to end this shutdown?
Well, they came out with a list of 10 demands, not exactly all of them. I can't name them, but on them are 3 things that we've already done in the funding bill for 2026 that we sent over. They want to make sure we have warrants. Well, we have administrative warrants. These criminal illegal aliens, there are administrative warrants that are for the deportation of these individuals. They want training for ICE officers. We have the money for that in the appropriations bill for Homeland Security. They want cameras. Okay, we've got $20 million for the cameras. If they had passed this, then that money would have been spent to pay for cameras. This is why this is so ridiculous, because I know a lot of people don't. This is sort of nuanced for a lot of people, but the Democrats, they have nothing to run on, and so they're causing chaos in America with their stupidity, and that's what it is at this point.
Well, they're running, everything that Trump does is the worst thing ever. I mean, that's what they're running on. And honestly, it might work for them, Congressman. It's not what I want to see happen, but there's plenty that suggests it might work for them. So why not keep doing it?
Well, I guess it does work because I think the legacy media is on their side. And once again, a lot of people don't take the time to educate themselves fully. They're not listening to your show to find out the truth of what's going on in Missouri, Kansas, and America. And that's why it's important that we get out there and try to educate people. I'm going to be on CNN today at 1 o'clock.
Oh, nice.
Trying to educate folks there, a lot of people say, why are you going on CNN or MSNBC? Because I want to tell people the truth. They're not getting enough truth. You can watch Fox News, OAN, Real America's Voice all day long, and that's fine, but we're just preaching to the choir.
That is so true. I'm so glad that you said that, because people like you going on CNN, MSNBC, I mean, if I'm you, because you're well-spoken, you know the media game, you know what you're talking about, if I'm Mark Alford, I go anywhere I'm invited where people will listen. I mean, I can't believe no one should be giving you a hard time for that, because that's how you change minds and change hearts, not talking into the echo chamber. I love that for you, Congressman.
Thank you. I want to win people over with rational, reasonable thought that's going to provide facts and not emotion. And we have way too much emotion. In fact, on both sides, I think, in politics today, we've got to bring decorum back to the process. I like what Scott Bessent does in his testimony. I was not really thrilled with Pam Bondi's testimony today, this past week, before the Senate. I think we've got to restore some decorum and civility so we can educate people and get things moving. There's a lot of criticism, and rightfully so, that we're not getting a lot done in Congress, and I think that's because everyone's showboating out there. The congressional members are trying to get the best sound bites they can so they can put clips on social media so they can raise money off of that, and that's not what it should be about.
All right, Mark Alford's here on KCMO. So speaking of things getting passed, I know the SAVE Act, which would require photo ID for federal elections, got through the House. For the other side, in the Senate, I know that's not where you're at, but it sounds like they're at 50 votes now, with Susan Collins of Maine agreeing to move ahead with this. Where do you see that going? I mean, do you think we're going to be in a world where in the 2026 midterms, you will be required to have a photo ID to vote?
I certainly hope so. I think this is going to be one of the most pressing issues, especially for young voters. If we don't do something like this and we make sure that our elections have integrity and are protected, then people are not going to turn out in the numbers that we need them to, because they will not trust the system. And that's just a simple fact, especially in an off year, a non-presidential election year. We've got to have the voter turnout, so we have to secure our elections. And that's what we're doing with the Save America Act. We passed it in the House this last week, went over to the Senate. It does two things primarily. It's mirrored after a bill that we already passed last year and the year before that, called the SAVE Act, Chip Roy's bill, which would make sure that if you are registering to vote in America for a federal election anyway, you've got to make sure that you've got to prove that you're a U.S. citizen, okay? And there are simple ways to do that. A lot of people are throwing fear-mongering out there, saying it's going to put a hardship, that it's racist, that it's Jim Crow 2.0, which is nonsense. Prove you're a citizen to register to vote. Number two, when you go to the polls, and this is what President Trump added and why he wanted to call it Save America Act, you've got to show an ID, a photo ID, government-issued photo ID when you go to the polls, and that is not a poll tax. You can get a government ID, and if you can get a ride to the polls to vote, you can get a ride to the DMV or wherever to get your government-issued ID. It's very simple. Secure the elections. Make sure only those who should be voting in our elections are voting in our elections.
Mark Alford on KCMO Talk Radio. Great stuff, Congressman. Thank you. Who are you going to be on with at CNN today?
Boris. I forgot his last name, but Boris, the bald guy with a beard.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I admit I had to look him up. All right. So Boris Sanchez, what is that, 1 o'clock Eastern time or Central time?
That will be our time here in Kansas City. I'm home right now due to the shutdown. I was supposed to go to Japan on a trip, and that got canceled. While the Democrats, by the way, go over to Munich and run down our country, this is what they did last time, Pete. When we had the 44-day shutdown, I was here working my rear end off in our district, as were a lot of Republican members working their district. The Democrats were fundraising. They were out partying in D.C. and singing songs on the Capitol steps, Kumbaya. And then this shutdown, they go over to Europe and run down America. It's atrocious. It's a game. It's stupid, and I'm sick of it.
All right. Well, we'll be watching 1 o'clock. Mark Alford's going to be over on CNN. We'll check it out then, my friend. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, there you go. Congressman Alford on KCMO Talk Radio. Fired up, as always. 8:44, good morning. Happy President's Day Monday. Thanks for joining us on KCMO Talk Radio. Yeah, I did see some of that. Who was it? AOC and some others were over there. You know, this shutdown stuff, it's just exhausting. It's not the shutdown like the last one in the fall, as you noted there. It's just DHS. But still, you got FEMA and TSA and the Coast Guard now not getting paid. They'll get their back pay. But still, you want TSA agents not getting paid right now? Really? And he's right. It's always about the politics. It always is.